Yes. So. That baby's down.
Maybe I want. Ooh, come on. There we go.
I'd like to call to order the Isabella County Board of Commissioners. Let's start out with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Madam Clerk, would you like to do the roll call for me, please?
Commissioner Campbell,
Here.
Commissioner Jazinski, Commissioner Engler, Commissioner Marino, Commissioner Swaney, Commissioner Hope. All present, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have an approval of the agenda. We'll have general public comment restricted to agenda items, presentations, specials, reports, appointment to boards and commissions. We'll have the consent agreement. We'll have the committee reports. We'll have the intergovernmental affairs, the administration, controllers, unfinished business. We do have new business. We have to enter into a closed session for negotiations. We'll also have general public comments. We'll end with announcements and we'll have an adjournment. Is there any additions or subtractions at this agenda at this time?
Adoption of the agenda.
Would we like to move public comment? We usually move public comments before a closed session so people can make comment before. Do we want to?
Can we have a second before we discuss? Okay, since there was a motion on there, okay. Discussion on this.
I move that we amend the agenda to have a public comment before closed session.
Support.
Okay. Any more discussion on that? Okay, seeing none, we'll vote. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we'll move that forward then, or we'll put it before we move into closed session, so.
Point of order. You had the motion.
You
on
had
the
a motion.
amendment.
Or-
I need to have the motion on the adoption.
Well, we just need to vote again. On the
Would-
original.
Okay, on the original, since it's been, I take it that was an amendment. Okay. So we'll vote on the motion as amended to move the public comment up before the closed door session. So does everybody understand what we're voting for? Okay, no more discussion. We'll move to vote. All in favor signify by aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Okay, we'll move that up then. So we have an agenda, so. At this time, we'll move right into general public comment. General public comment on restricted to agenda items. We have a 3-minute limit on this. It's for comments. And at this time, I'll open it up to the public.
I'm Patricia Carrick from Nottawa Township, and I stand before you tonight to raise urgent concerns regarding a push for residents of the SAD to connect to the sewer system for water. It's important to clarify that the onset of the the sewer fluoridate is not mandatory requirement. I do have a letter from Eagle that what it says is the plan, not that it's mandatory.
Excuse me, could you get closer to the mic? We're having a little trouble hearing, at least I do. Thank you.
As I said, it's important to clarify from the outset of the implementing the sewer for Coal Lake is not mandatory requirement. It is simply a request from the Eagle for a plan to be established. For the past 8 years, SAD residents have encountered significant hurdles in complying with the township ordinance. The cost has doubled, particularly for those who do not reside directly on the lake. It is crucial to note that some lakefront residents have not been required to connect to the sewer system, which raises serious questions about fairness, necessity, and the ordinance. I reached out to Taylor from Isabella Health Department to gain clarity on this matter. While she confirmed her commitment to protect the environmental health of the lake, she redirected me to the engineer. This lacks confusion, needs for transparency, and consistency. Moreover, Nottawa Township used to enforce an eminent domain to enforce sewer hookup requirements appears unjust, given the circumstances on hand. This is not mandatory. The financial strain on residents, especially those who don't live on the lake and have functional file on system, cannot be overlooked. Somehow the rules of law switched. It's switched. The good people are getting bombarded with burden, and the people on the lake that do not have things on file, pay for it. So I implore you to consider this unfair, a requirement to take action to ensure that the health department hold accountable those living on the lake who are contributing to environmental concerns due to debt, allowing them to build on top of each other, leaving no room for proper systems. I do believe there is a couple of them that do meet with the health department. If you would want to get with me, I do have a letter that states that it is not mandatory. It's just a plan in place. And I do have something from Taylor that states contact your engineer. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Hey, anybody else?
Thank you.
Can you state your name for everybody, please? Okay, thank you.
Why have I been so compelled lately to speak to topic? The answer is actually quite simple. I like my money. I work hard for my money. Money is really tight. My taxes are outrageous. And while I always find a way to help others in a time of need, I do not appreciate my money being forced from my hands and then used as if it is a commissioner birthday gift to use for your own pleasure. Tonight, you will vote for or against a motion to approve the use of buyout money in the amount of $2,223 or $223,000, $697,000 of taxpayer money. While I look forward to your answer of what happens if it's not used, I implore you to consider the depth of this request that includes a non-essential body scanner to scan for contraband. Would this make us the only jail in the area to even own one of these? There is a very basic method which does not require additional taxpayer money, and a simple internet search proves it to be quite standard. Before sharing this method, did you know that the Isabella County Correctional Facility Inmate Guide on page 4 provides for a strip search? During the admission process, inmates will be photographed, fingerprinted, and if applicable, DNA will be collected. And then they will be classified, issued jail clothing, a wristband, and strip searched before moved into the general population. This is important because from my research during a strip search, officers quite frequently use a method to search for contraband. While a cavity search is not to be utilized, and the bend and spread your cheeks is sometimes frowned upon, squat and cough is a traditionally efficient method. Without a doubt, luxuries such as a scanner would provide for a more simple approach to work, but at a time of mistrust and financial irresponsibility with a surplus of overspending, fulfilling strictly necessity is essential to restoring fiscally effective operations. A scanner is not a necessity. Has it been considered that we need to focus on simply finishing the jail project rather than constantly adding desires? Have other avenues been considered to provide for such luxuries? Consider this question. Road patrol vehicles are sitting idle. What will we do with these that are depreciating by the day and costing dollars to maintain and insure? Is there potential equipment in the vehicles that is accruing software or licensing fees? Will I support improvement when it is reasonable and appropriate? Now is neither. Please stick to necessity, focus on completing the jail, consider the taxpayers, use the opportunity right now to rebuild trust, and vote no on a body scanner. Thank you.
For your comments, is there any other buddy that would like to come up and speak at this time?
Apologize for not having this better prepared. Today has been very busy. I'm a huge fan of the sheriff, love him to death, appreciate the work that he's done there, appreciate the work that he's done when we ripped out his road patrol officers.
Excuse me, can you announce your name for? Okay, thank you, Aaron.
Officers, and he's continued to make things work and trying to move things across. At the same time, and I also appreciate that he saved a lot of money, so hopefully Sheriff, often I say this, but $200,000 for a body scanner. The sheriff gave some pretty, talked about one person that died, we think presumably because some stuff was smuggled in a body cavity. Another lady, some stuff got shoved into a body cavity by herself, and they found out about it and took her to the hospital, and it ruptured while they were trying to take it out. I know the sheriff told you this, maybe the public hasn't heard this yet. But all of these things are trying to protect people that are doing absurdly crazy things, shoving things in body cavities that are illegal substances and are illegal to shove into your body cavities when you're bringing them into the jail. At the same time, that $200,000 that we're asking for that body scanner to help them, we fired every single road patrol officer, every single one of them could have at least had one for $200,000. Our entire admin staff is in 2 buildings right now for a total rent of $200,000 per year. That's 19,000 square foot, 10,000 and 9,000. I don't know if you commissioners have all gone and toured these buildings. If you haven't, shame on you, you really need to. Our register and our treasurer are sitting in a garage. Not like a fancy high-end garage, a garage with a brick floor and a roll-up door and the overhead garage door thing and a garage heater in the top corner. And they're not complaining, but that is where they're sitting and they're working today. I saw that, I almost fell over with embarrassment that I, as a member of this county, have my treasurer, my register of deeds sitting in a garage for $200,000. That's all we're paying for both of those buildings for the full year. And yet we're looking at $200,000 for a body scanner to keep people from shoving crazy things up inside their body cavities. Last thing, I think prosecuting attorney is going to ask for a conference room today. I stopped and talked to the prosecuting attorney. One of the things I love about our county is so many good people in it. And he actually talked to me, even though I had no appointment or anything. And while normally I would say shut down every single expense, it's $12,000. It's basically the same cost as what we're asking for shelves at the jail. And we have 6 prosecuting attorneys and staff that don't even have a conference room to work in. So my recommendation there, as much as I try to say no to every cost, I think that we probably should. I think we should also probably tell the prosecuting attorney honestly that he's probably going to be in that space for quite a while. And so, hope to make it comfortable that he can stay there a few years instead of making him think he's going to be able to get into something better in the next year or 2. All I had. Thank you. Please consider voting no on the $200,000 body scanner.
Thank you for the comments. Is there anybody else at this time would like to come up to the mic? Do we have anybody online on the phone? Okay, at this time, I'd like to close the general public comments to agenda items and move on. We have no presentations and special reports. We have no appointments to boards and commission. So let's move right on to the consent agenda. So Let me see, which way do we start? I think Jerry, you want to take that? I think we'll start at your end on there. So to make the motion.
Consent agenda. Motion reads, move to approve and place on file the February 4th, 2025 regular meeting minutes and the February 11th, 2025 Finance Committee of the Whole meeting minutes.
Support.
Moved by Jazinski, supported by Swaney. I'm talking over my tongue. So would you like to go over that for us, please? Huh? This consent agreement, is there, would you like to make comment on any of those or not? There's no changes in there? Okay, if there's nobody has any more comments on this, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed, the same? Okay. Let's move right on to committee reports and Commissioner Swaney, you want to make that first motion?
One, Finance Committee of the Whole, January 31st, 2025 invoice list, February 7th, 2025 invoice list, and January 30th, 2025 adjustment list. Motion reads, move to ratify and place on file the January 31st, 2025 invoice list in the amount of $221,043.85. The February 7th, 2025 invoice list in the amount of $2,398,130.12. And the adjustments list dated January 30th, 2025.
Support.
It's been moved and supported and moved by Swaney and seconded by Jelsinski. So you want to go through them?
Yes. So in front of you, you'll have the list of the top page, the invoices that were over $5,000. First of all, I'd like to note that out of the $221,043.85, the general fund was $113,306.58 out of that. The big ticket items was Acrisure, which was the dental and vision expense for February 2025, and MRP Properties for $17,091.46. And then also to Train US Incorporated for $41,781, and that was for the retainage on the completed courthouse rooftop HVAC unit.
Questions on that before we move?
Just note that the MRP Properties payment was for rent for our temporary administration building.
Okay, any more questions? You want to go ahead, hit the next one?
Okay, the next one we have is the February 7th, 2025 list for a total amount of $2,398,131.12. Out of that, the general fund portion was $131,695.26. Out of this, the big ones, we have Mid-State Health Network for the PA2 funds that we had talked about last time. We also have various state of Michigan ones. And we also have Motorola Solutions for video manager subscriptions. That was court years that we were not paying, but we took care of that 2 meetings ago. So that payment of $12,492 shows up as 3 different payments on that line. The big items on this one you'll see is that the tax disbursement to Gratiot Isabella Intermediate Schools, $767,804. Then Claire Gladwin Intermediate Schools for $44,858. So those are the big ticket items that made up that majority of that 2.3 million plus invoice list.
Questions? Okay, we've all seen these, so let's move on to the last one.
Okay, the next is the adjustments list. The one on here that I want to point out is that Raymond Robson a check was cut, but it was not sent. It was a duplicate invoice that was paid, but it was caught during the process. So that check was voided. And then we also have some treasury disbursements that was sent out to Gratiot Isabella Intermediate Schools, Montcalm Community College, Mid-Michigan Community College. And then there's other invoices that were added for an early payment discount or time limitations.
Okay, any questions with that? Seeing no more discussion, we'll vote for that. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Swaney,
Yes.
Commissioner Hope,
Yes.
Commissioner Weber, Commissioner Campbell,
Yes.
Commissioner Jaozinski, Commissioner Marino,
Yes.
Commissioner Engler.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Let's move right on to the prime contract change order, and it's up to you, Mr. Weber, I believe.
The motion
Commissioner
reads,
Weber.
prime contract change order number 33 with Clark Construction in the net additional amount of $223,697 and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same. Roll call.
Support.
Moved by Weber, supported by Jaozinski. We will open up comments now. Do you want to have Heidi on?
I don't think Heidi is present tonight, so it'd be the sheriff if he wants to come up.
Sheriff, you want to come up? We'll talk about this. We've had quite a discussion at our work session.
Sheriff? I would know if would like to start this off with we had questions about what we could use for how the buyout and the contingency could be used. And I know commissioners got an explanation from a lawyer on email, but I don't know if you or our Administrator Smith would like to address that.
Yeah, why don't you read that as far as what we found out?
So these answers right here are related to the public comment from last week's session. So here's some of the answers to that. The first question was, can you please explain the buyout as stated in the contract with Clark? Answer: the buyout line in the budget was created because Clark's estimate for the project came under what the price was when we received bids. It was decided to keep these funds separate from contingency to use this first. This was a county decision. What can the buyout be used on? Can be used just like contingency, anything for the project. Question: what happens if it's not spent on new items of work? The Clark then gives the money back to the county. Question: will it be applied to the loan or returned to the county general fund? The answer: you can either make a principal payment on the loan, but with this, you paying it on the back end according to USDA rules. So you're not paying it up front where you would save that interest over the years. You're paying it on the back end, which is kind of unusual. You can reimburse the county towards the 12% match that the county has paid for this. You could reimburse the county for furniture and equipment that was purchased, or reimburse the county for applicable project-related expenses. Next question was, what was the original bid on the jail and did it include the buyout amount? The answer is the original bid did not include the buyout because we were $11 million over budget. With value engineering efforts, the county and clerk both worked with the architect, integrated architects, sorry, and the county increase in the budget for the project. When we received bids in November 22, we were under budget and the money went to buyout. Question: what is the current amount spent on the jail and is the buyout included on this? The overall contract Clark has with the county is $43,109,552. Buyout and contingency is a part of this number. Question: what is the projected final date of completion for the jail? Are additional items taking longer to reach completion? Answer: we were done in January. We have one item that we were working on for the laundry, but this should not hold up the temp occupancy from Union Township. We were supposed to have a final inspection with the fire marshal and mechanical inspector on 1/31/25, but the fire marshal was sick, so it was rescheduled to 2/6/25. On February 6th, when we left the days, we were under the impression that all inspectors were good on Clark's side. Sheriff just needed to submit the fire plan. We had the state fire marshal on the 7th let us know that we had one room that we needed to fire caulk. He was good with the building except the one room. We can occupy the rest of the building. We are currently working on this item. This does not stop us from getting temporary occupancy to occupy the building. Question: what is the final cost of the jail and can the amount Can the final amount include the use of buyout to apply to bring costs down? The jail will not go over the $43,109,552. At this point, we have not touched contingency and we have 92,000 remaining in buyout, and we have not touched contingency. Final number will be done in March when I can wrap up the remaining cost of the trades for items that were done for inspections. And then if the money is not used, can it go back to the county general fund or used for other departments? This is kind of, we'll go into this next one. And the same question, what happens to the unused contingency money? As stated under the buyout, you can make a principal payment on the loan, which would be on the back end, reimburse the county towards a 12% match, reimburse the county for furniture, equipment that was purchased, or reimburse the county for applicable project-related expenses.
Thank you.
I think we can kind of rule out applying that to the back end of the loan. That just makes no sense and there's no real advantage. It will not reduce the interest. It will not reduce the payments. Loan, then it would make a big deal, but it's considering it's on the back end and at the interest rates we got, it's only my opinion, but I feel that would be kind of foolish for us to go forward with that, so. So that leaves our other options open on that part of it. So where do we want to take the conversation next? You,
I have a question. So, we could reimburse the county towards the 12% match,
Yes,
and then that money would go to general fund?
yes.
I think that number is around 12% of the 30.
It's brown, a little over 4, yes. So the buyout contingency is nowhere gonna reach the 12% that was put into it, but it'll help cover some of the cost.
I'll start us off here. This has been a troubling one for me. I'm gonna vote no on this. I think, at a time, it's just not the right time for this. I can see the benefit of it. I would love, for us to have a scanner. But I think we just laid off our entire road patrol last fall, and we have a building sitting empty on Main Street. We need to do something. So to spend $200,000 on this now, it's just not the right thing. Just my opinion.
I agree with you, definitely. It's taxpayers' money, and I've gotten a lot of pushback from people in my district. I've got a few phone calls, few emails, and I think just now's not the time. You know,
I think the other items in this change order, I don't have any problem with. I think it's the scanner.
yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
You know, I know it's referred to this as a luxury item. I don't think it's a luxury item. Any kind of tool that's used to protect inmates and protect the staff and make sure that the facility is being operated in an orderly manner. I know it is a chunk of money. This was something that was in the project to begin with that was taken out because we were so far over budget. And if there's an opportunity to bring it back in, having been involved with the MMRMA Risk Management Parks and Recreation Recreation Advisory Committee for so many years, I have a good understanding of managing your risk. And knowing that the MMRMA is willing to put in a $50,000 return to the county for purchase of this equipment, it is a grant. Their grants are usually approved for those things that are particularly are stand out like this is. And, you know, people do stupid things, but they're going to do those stupid things and they're going to get themselves hurt. And you know, there's going to be an attorney there that's going to be willing to take a case on a contingency. And you know what it costs this county if a lawsuit goes forward? Even if it's the jury's find in favor of the county, this county's deductible. We pay the first $75,000. I don't think that's changed. At least I haven't heard, but I think the first $75,000, even in a successful defense, comes out of our general fund. And how many, you know, the fact that we do get sued, you know, I think this is an important piece of equipment. I don't think the sheriff would be coming to us if it wasn't important. I would hate to see it not being provided. So I will be voting yes on this change order.
I agree with the Commissioner Jarozinski. If it is not a luxury item, it was included in the plan in the first place, but when we started cutting things off, it disappeared. If and when there is some kind of suit against us, which is really quite probable if we don't use a scanner on the folks coming in, we would be in worse shape than we are now. So I'll be voting yes.
I would like for us to see if we could find some other alternative funding sources. I know that there's got to be grant money out there. I understand about the $50,000, but currently where our county stands, I think that we have other things that we need to focus on as far as getting our employees into a proper environment to work, as well as when it comes to lawsuits. People sue over anything these days. I mean, we could have somebody walk outside this building, slip and fall, and we're in a lawsuit. So that's kind of how I look at it right now. So I'm going to vote no.
Oh, go ahead then.
So I don't throw Richard, but my job is to bring risk reduction stuff to this board. I sent a document out to you folks earlier. I sent it to Senator Bryan. The average is $2.3 million with the lawsuit for drug overdose in the jail. Multiple jails in the state of Michigan. I sent the companies that have this that haven't been in the jails in Michigan. They're not the only ones that have or would want. We're asking for one or get one. With the information known from the USDA, and I think Commissioner Jarozinski mentioned it, last or the work session. The sales tax and the markup and so forth. If we have the opportunity to be reimbursed through the USDA loan, which probably wouldn't impact the payments one way or the other, $100,000 here or there, you could shave off $20,000. You get $50,000 from the MMRMA. That brings us down $130,000. I did provide you documentation that in the last 2 years we had 147 known, I stress known, smuggling attempts into the jail. Those are things we found and we're able to keep out of the jail. Those are the only ones that we know. So when we're asked, does it happen? Yes, it does. It is absolutely illegal for us to do a body cavity search, period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You can squat, you can cough, you can do whatever you want. If it doesn't come out, we cannot go any farther unless we have a probable cause to get a search warrant to take them to a medical facility and to do that, which we've had to do in the past. It's not uncommon when we have something to take them and find that out. So again, it's my job to bring that risk reduction to you because the potential is extremely high. We know it is even our own system because I have 147 attempts in the last 24 months alone to bring stuff into our facility. I don't know if there's a feasible way to find that fund outside of monies that we're talking about in buyout, which would reduce that sales tax, reduce that overhead, and then apply that MMRMA grant if that changes any of the commissioner's thoughts onto it. I understand completely the situation this county's in, probably better or equally as most. But again, we have a place designed in this building for it. We cut it out because we did not have the funds. We did not think we were going to have the funds. We were able to save those funds and provide things in the back end of this project. So one thing I will mention on occupancy that Controller Administrator Smith mentioned, we have partial occupancy in the administrative section only. We do not have occupancy in the corrections or inmate section due to this one room. So we are not allowed, or we can't put inmates in there at this point in time. I just want to make a clarification on that. That's why we have not completed our task of moving at this point. So that will not happen for a few more weeks at least.
Okay, you haven't heard me speak, so I'll go ahead. Right now, I see this coming down to 3 issues right now. Of course, you got the cost, which is the 200,000 plus. We can reduce that maybe some way. The second thing is I had opportunity this week to do my due diligence, as I call it. I have acquaintance that works not in our corrections, but in St. Louis. They just started using their new body scan in there. The drugs is very persuasive in there. I had another friend of mine that wife works at another facility, not our facility, and got the same story there, is about how much the drugs going into the facilities affect the operations and the safety of it. People, I think, get a little bit confused between a prison and a county jail. The county jail is for our citizens. And I think the sheriff will agree on this, is that a lot of times our major problem we have with our jail is addiction and mental health issues. It's the only chance they get. It might not be a great chance, but when they're in jail, of course, they have to be dried out. They have to go through a program. Hopefully, percentage of them that you get cleaned up and goes back in, but if you just drop them out back into our county, a lot of times they're either going to continue using or get into crime to pay for the addiction. So I do think the new facility, the new scanners are a lot better than the old ones. It's a big amount of money. At that point, you know, what is it for the community and how well is it? So if we save a few bucks here, you know, to do this, but how is it going to affect our community when we because like I said, the jails are not prisons. They're for the citizens of our county. Same thing with the mental health situation. That some of the arguments we make about the new jail is that the new facilities will be able to handle these issues. The third issue that I want to bring up, and I think I will be supporting this. All through this program, I know Commissioner Jelskinsky was on this, and we asked, this goes to all the department heads, we want to cut. We want to cut back. It's in your budget. The sheriff's has cut back. This wasn't an original design to have that in there. It was taken out. There's a lot of stuff was taken out at the time. And so we asked him to make the cuts, and now we're underneath the budget. So we asked him to do this. He wanted something back in there at this project. So do we punish him for doing something we asked him to do to keep, and it's the same thing that we try to do and try to instigate new policies where if department heads can save money, we don't want to punish them. We want to figure a way to incentivize them to save money. Because if you look at a budget and you take their money away from them, they're going to spend every bit of money again. So those are the comments. This is not an easy one, but this is I will probably support this at this time. So Commissioner Sweeney, you had a comment.
Yeah. I want to emphasize that I think it's very important that the Sheriff's Department has a scanner at some point. I think it's very necessary. It's a risk assessment that we're making, but it's an important one. We're talking about not just, you know, inmates, but we're talking about our employees in the jail who can come into contact with substances or other items that are smuggled in. However, I would like to see us pull this item from the contract change order and bring that money into the general fund and look at paying for this scanner, because then we don't have to pay the Clark fee and we don't have to pay sales tax. So there's what, 10, 12% right there off the top. And with the 50% from MMRA, we'll have, or 50,000, we'll have that. And then hopefully, I don't know, with the 2% grant, we can get partial funding or full funding for the rest of it for 2%. I really want us to move forward on this, even though I'm going to vote no tonight, not on the contract. I don't want to vote no on the contract order, just this item. But I think we have to move forward on this. It's not just, yes, it can be 2 million or more every incident, But it's not about the money. It's about our safety of our employees. And I'm fortunate that I am very conflicted because I'm voting to delay it getting into the facility, and I know that it will open before it's in there to protect our employees. But I do feel it's important that we try to pay for this with another grant, if possible. I don't know what you think about that.
No issue with that at all. I mean, I'm all about trying to save some money. You know, it's just more than finding contraband and an inmate and avoiding a lawsuit. That in a jail, you know, obviously affects the families of that inmate, but it also affects the employees. It affects this community every time it happens. It's, you know, I don't want to be short-sighted here. You ever hear about a death in a state prison? We do on a county jail. It's a much more local situation, right? So it really affects those communities much more. I have no problem delaying it as long as we're continuing to work forward. Trying to figure this path out for many years, you know, we're trying to put one in there. I think it has great value. I have no objection to writing a partial 2% grant, an MMRA grant, some funds that maybe before this project wraps up, or we can get reimbursed from the USDA onto it as well, so the money comes back in. I have no issues with that at all.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, Commissioner.
Yeah, I don't have a problem delaying it, but the idea that this is something, if we have monies reverting back to the general fund, we can pick this up with some savings because we don't have to pay the sales tax. There may be some 2% dollars come in. The MMRMA grant still comes into play. Question I have is, we would just adopt, if this is the direction we're going, we would need to make a change to the motion to just remove that one item. Is that something we can do? Remove it from the project without running a
What our options are right now, the motion sits on the floor, this would have to be approved totally with as is. So your other options is to amend that, to take that process out. And then after that, vote on the amended option, pass that. We could come back to this issue. We could either table it, put it on the next agenda, or after removing it, we can bring it back at a different time. But right now, the motion on the floor is just to pass this as is. So we're open for discussion. There is a motion on the floor that's been supported. So yes.
Chair Engler, I'd like to make an amendment to the motion to remove, my amended motion would be to remove the body scanner from the contract, a change order.
If I may make a suggestion, if that's okay, I'm sorry.
But
No, go ahead. We want to get this right.
I would suggest that we, the motion read, move to approved contract, change order number 33 with Clark Construction with the deletion of item 0260. And the net additional amount with a new amount would be $20,074 and authorize the board chair to sign the same.
I'll support that.
So that right there takes the original motion number, takes this out, and so you're left over with still $20,000.74 in change orders. There's not 74 cents, $74 in other change orders.
So the amendment, the motion's been supported on the floor, so we're still just discussing just the amendment. So does everybody understand what the proposed amendment is? I didn't write down all the numbers, so
$20,074 is the net additional amount by taking out item number 0260.
Okay, does everybody understand what we're doing? Okay, if everybody understands that, we will proceed to vote on the amendment and we will do a roll call on this, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Hope? Commissioner Weber? Commissioner Campbell? Commissioner Jelzinski? Commissioner Marino? Commissioner Swaney? Commissioner Engler? 7 ayes, 0 nays. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, now we go back to the motion as amended that's on the floor. Does everybody understand what we did here?
Amended.
It is amended, so we don't have to, okay, bring it back up. Okay,
Can I steal one more second here?
may, sir.
The board of commissioners and everybody we have successfully moved over to the facility we are operating out of that as of last Friday. And it looks like the hurricane hit it, so we're still really trying to put things together and make sure everything works with the official functions of the administrative side, non-correction, anything non-correction is at the new facility as of today.
Yeah, thank you, Sheriff. Okay, let's move on to our next agenda item, and that brings you up to you, Commissioner Hope.
Okay. Item 3 is Nathan Wood Farmland Agreement Application, and motion reads move to approve the Nathan Wood Farmland Agreement Application dated December 5th, 2024, and instruct the Isabella County Clerk to forward the approved application to the MDA Farmland and Open Space. Support.
Been moved and supported by Hope and seconded by Jelsinski. We see these quite often. Basically, we just go through and make sure all the application is filled out properly. I did not see anything at this time. It looked like it was presented, and I know Commissioner Swaney, you've seen a lot of these too. Did you catch anything?
Didn't see anything. It looked all in order. I'm always surprised when they only do 10 years, since I know that they can always amend it if they
Going up to 90. It's always been kind of within the farm community is that because it does, and it's a situation where it works on a sliding scale, depending how much income you make from farming, how much you get back. But because it does cost the state a lot of money in tax revenue, that there's always been, well, when are they going to stop it? When they're going to complete it? So you got guys doing it for 10 and you got people doing it for 90 years. So, and if you can figure out what the state's going to do, it's you're ahead of the game. So, okay, any more discussion on that? Seeing none, we'll vote. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Weber? Commissioner Campbell?
Yes.
Commissioner Jelsinski? Commissioner Marino? Commissioner Swaney? Commissioner Hope? Commissioner Engler? 7 ayes, 0 nays. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Campbell, would you want to read the next agenda item coming up?
Response System, PERS grant agreement. Move to approve the Personal Emergency Response Systems, PERS grant agreement between the Mount Pleasant Area Community Foundation and Isabella County in the amount of $4,000 for the period of October 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2025, and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same.
Support.
It's been moved and supported, moved by Campbell, supported by Jelsinski. He's going to make me say that all day. So just because I'm having trouble with the name today. So discussion, you want to, we got somebody speaking on this?
I can provide the background here that was provided by Jennifer Crawford, the Director of the Isabella County Commission on Aging. The background on this is that the Commission on Aging is so fortunate to continue to have such wonderful working relationships with many CMU departments, faculty, and students. We continue to work with the grant writing course where students work closely with our team, gathering information regarding potential projects that would be beneficial to those we serve. The students format their grants using the Mount Pleasant Area Community Foundation grant template. Upon completion of the course, the grants are provided to our agency for potential submission to the Mount Pleasant Area Community Foundation during the grant cycle. The attached Personal Emergency Response System grant was submitted and awarded to the Mount Pleasant Area by the Mount Pleasant Area Community Foundation. The PERS units will be provided to older adults who are in need and would benefit from the safety and security provided by the unit, potentially allowing them to remain in their homes longer. Funds from the grant can be used from 10/1 of 24 to 12/31 of 25. And I commend the Commission on Aging working with CMU and having their assistance to write these grants. I think it's a win-win for us and it's a win-win for them to get knowledge and training in writing grants like that because it's getting more and more important as we go on.
Okay, any more? Just, yes, Commissioner.
Here, I was thinking 4,000, it's a significant amount of money, but I didn't know how much these things were costing. I was thinking we'd only get a few units, but it sounds like, according to the director, we get 114 people that can be served. Keeps them in their homes longer, which is good for the community, it's good for them.
Okay, anybody else? Seeing none, Commissioner, or Madam Clerk, would you do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Jazinski, Commissioner Moreno, Commissioner Swaney, Commissioner Hope, Commissioner Weber, Commissioner Campbell,
Yes.
Commissioner Engler. 7 ayes, 0 nays. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Commissioner Moreno, you want to take up the next item, please?
The next item is lease amendment between Broadway Land Management LLC and Isabella County. The motion reads, move to approve the lease amendment between Broadway Land Management LLC and the County of Isabella for additional space to the current 210 East Broadway lease in the amount of $944 per month, and authorize the board chair to sign the same.
Their support. Been moved by Moreno, support by Hope. Okay, we have our prosecutor here.
Prosecutor Mark Kowalczyk, and so this lease amendment's been discussed in our office for quite a while. And I want to emphasize, I'll give a little bit of a history on this, but also an invitation at the end if there's any questions for any commissioners. And this is not a request for comfort in our office at all. It's really a request for necessity. I'll get to that also, but the history of it is we've provided a staff report for you to review. There's also an architectural rendition, and I'm a visual person, but looking at architectural renditions, it's somehow hard to visualize what we're looking at. That's why I'll get to an invitation at the end. If any commissioners want to have a tour of our current office facilities, to put this into perspective, it really adds quite a bit to just a rendition, architectural rendition. But the rendition for the proposal is attached to our request. The history, just a brief history, when we were removed from the Isabella County building because of the asbestos issue. At some point in time, my predecessor, Mr. Barberry, had to find and did find adequate space for us to rent. And I know he put a lot of time and effort into that process, but part of the process was looking for a space that would meet our office needs and would also at the same time be close to the county building, the courthouse, because that's very important also, that we would have access because we were right across the parking lot before, so we didn't want to be too far away. So he found the current space that we're in. Honestly, I don't think it was really adequate to start with, but it was, given the issues and the constraints, it was acceptable at the time. But it was under the idea that we would be in our current facility for 12 months, maybe slightly longer, but the idea was for 12 months. And now those timelines, I don't know what the timelines are, but we're past 12 months and there's no end in sight for our office needs and what we do as prosecuting attorneys. So again, part of the history was Middle Michigan Development Corp rented the front of that building. It's off of Broadway. But they had the front part before we moved in there, and then they have subsequently moved to a different part of the building that's not connected. So they're no longer there. So when they were there, there's a meeting room that is part of one of the options. It would be option one that we were allowed to use, probably it being on a temporary basis. We weren't charged to use that meeting room by the owner of the building. And in part, it was because Middle Michigan Development also was there. They used that meeting room different times. So we had to coordinate with them when we wanted to use it, but it was on a gratuity basis. We didn't have to pay an additional cost. So since then, Middle Michigan Development has moved from that current facility. And so the owner of the building wants to continue to develop the building. And they've got future plans, I believe future grant plans that I'm not part of, but they shared that with us. They've worked on the roof of that facility while we've been in there. So they put quite an effort in putting a more modern roof, things of that nature. And so based on that, we approached them about having this need for basically using a meeting room. And so they put forth what we've attached as the email to our proposal and gave us a couple options. Option one is to use that meeting room. It's a large meeting room. I kind of refer to it as United Nations meeting room. It's just got a gigantic table and it's a very large meeting room. It would house a lot of people in a meeting, just numerous people. It's a gigantic table that's in there. So that's option one that they provided. They also gave us option two, which is our preferred option. And option two is that outside of, there's a door outside of current secretarial office that would have access to option two, and they would take that area and allow us to use it as a meeting room, and they would wall off because it's connected to where Middle Michigan was and it used to be the old Isabella Bank building. So they would wall that off. And so they would give us a meeting room, and in front of that meeting room, there's also one additional office that is abuts Broadway. So we believe that option two is a better option. And so the things that the prosecuting attorney does and what we can't do right now is we do not have a meeting room. And it's absolutely critical in our function in discussing cases, planning cases before individuals are charged, and even after they're charged. We meet regularly, and I will meet regularly with our other assistant prosecutors in the office. We meet every Monday at the start of the workday to talk about the work week, talk about cases, talk about issues that arise, and it's every week. And sometimes it may be more than once a week. And sometimes we have trainings that are also available with all the attorneys. We have 6 attorneys in our office. And currently we have 0. We have no meeting room options. The landlord has indicated that the old gratuity, because they're continuing to work on the building, expand the building, do what their plans are, we no longer have that ability to use that meeting room in option one. So that they've put together a proposal basically with option 1 and 2. So, but right now, as it stands, we have no meeting room because it was a holiday. I met this morning with our attorneys and we talk about the case. In the proposal also, it talks about the employees not having a break room. I'm less concerned about a break room, quite honestly, but it is a reality. Our employees, we have 14 in our office and there's no break room. What probably is a break room was my old office. I'm about putting my head down and doing the work that's necessary. That's my main function and certainly my main function at this point. And so what would be an old break room was my old office. I basically took it by default. I said, doesn't matter where you put me, you can put me in a garage. What's important is the work. But I'm no longer in that particular office. Another attorney is, but it's really that office space itself is really inadequate. It's more of a break room. There's a bathroom connected to it. There's a microwave oven in there. There is a back room with a refrigerator. And so that attorney that has that space currently, again, it used to be my old space. There's people at the end of the day that are going in there to get their food, to take it home. They're interrupting what he does. And they can do that at any time of the day. Lunch, they're doing the same thing. People are going, just walking right into his so-called office, heating up their lunches on a microwave. It's really very inadequate. It's certainly not something that is something that's attractive to attorneys I may be looking to hire when I interview them. If I show them that this is their office, that's not an incentive for them to consider working in the office. So hence option 2, there is that second office that would be available through option 2. So again, I meet with all of our staff, all 14. There's different departments. There's legal secretary department. There's the assistant prosecutors. And again, there's 6 of us. There's victim advocates, 2 victim advocates that I meet with. And right now, there's no adequate place to meet whatsoever. The prime consideration for me is 6 attorneys. There's absolutely no place to meet with 6 attorneys. The biggest office, maybe we can put 3 attorneys in there. So it's not very advantageous to talk about cases and what we're supposed to do as prosecutors when half of the prosecutors are standing up in a corner and half may be seated. So it's just really not a good setup at all. And again, I'm not talking about comfort. It's about absolute necessity. And so I meet with the attorneys at least once a week, but also with staff at least once a month with staff. So there's other considerations for having a conference room also, and that would be that we can use that for talking to witnesses, preparing for trial, preparing for preliminary examinations and other hearings. It's absolutely critical to talk to witnesses who are victims of sometimes violent crime, but victims across the board. And what I've had to default to doing is meeting victims and families over at the courthouse. It's less than advantageous to do that in a meeting room at the courthouse. But that's what we've been doing. And so option 1 would give us the larger room. Option 2, we would have the conference room and an additional office, as I mentioned, for, I believe, less than $60 per month. The total breakdown annually for option 1 and 2 is laid out. Option 2, it is, what is it, like $600 and some odd dollars more for option 2 than option 1, but we'd be gaining an office. And again, I guess a couple other options. We've had this before. This is really not advantageous at all, but when Mr. Barberry was here, a few times we had to have larger staff meetings with all the staff at once. And that would be 14 employees. There's certainly, if we can't have 6 in any particular office, there's absolutely no room for 14. We were kind of reduced to basically half people standing, half people seated in our lobby area. And basically a makeshift staff meeting would occur that way there. That's less than advantageous also. So I didn't mention that, but again, we've got, what other options would be that I guess I could close my office, and that's not what we're doing serving the public whatsoever. We do not want to close our office. But if we were forced to have staff meetings elsewhere, then we would have to close the office and then find an adequate spot to meet outside of county facilities. That doesn't seem like a very good option to me. So in the end, again, we're requesting option 2 be adopted. And at a minimum, if any commissioners, again, that invitation stands that if you want to come to our building, get a good visual of what I'm talking about, it won't take very long, and I would invite you to do so. Public comment today was, I heard something along the lines of commissioners should be doing this, I certainly would welcome that. So, and we would do that at your convenience. So thank you.
Questions?
Yep.
I just, are you guys, I know we've always, sorry, I'm gonna make you come back up here. But I know it's always been a concern. What is your staffing situation right now as far as hires and everything? Yes, yes, I know, it seemed like,
Really 5.5.
is that where you need to be at this point, or is there an opening currently? That's what we're getting. I know we've had trouble with before getting fully staffed, so I'm just kind of why I got you here.
I think we're technically, well, we're really at 5.5 because our chief assistant's part-time. So he's not full-time. I think he's Monday through half a day on Thursday. So we're there. And then we have, basically what we're going to have is an entry-level position open also. And so currently we have entry-level person, prosecuting attorney, and I think he's here till May. So there'll be an open position that we're recruiting actively for that position. So I envision what we will have in May will either be 5 or 5.5 still. So it's kind of a moving target a little bit at this point.
Okay, that's basically the question I had for you, since we had you here.
How many offices do you have in that facility?
Oh, let me see, for just overall offices? Okay.
Offices for office space.
Okay, so there is, let's see, there's one, I gotta count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, probably 9 offices. Then there's that, what I refer to as a break room. It might count it as 10.
Question, utilities, is that included in the rental amount, or are we paying those separate?
That is,
I think it's included.
Would have to be
Yeah, it's
included
been
because of the
included.
space in there, how they could,
they're all tied together.
you can't separate that out, so it would have to be one part of it. Okay, any more discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you.
Who voting on though? You have 944 per month. He is speaking of different options, so I want to make sure I have it correct in the minutes.
944.
Thank you.
Option.
Option 2 was the
Peak,
Yes.
Commissioner Marino,
Yes.
Commissioner Swaney, Commissioner Hope, Commissioner Weber, Commissioner Campbell, Commissioner Engler. 7 ayes, 0 nays. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Okay, next up, we have, let me see, where did I leave off at? Oh, I think Marino also goes with Jerry, so just trying to keep track of where everybody's.
Authorized signature policy number 417. Motion reads, move to approve the Isabella County authorized signature policy number 417, financial management as presented.
Support.
Been moved by Jelzinski and supported by Campbell, I think. Was that correct, sir? Did you support that?
Swaney did.
Had 2 of them here, okay.
So, we'll eventually give Brian a chance to get into this, but I know that we've asked to maybe look at a more expedited way of handling some of these small contracts or agreements that come up with all the departments. And one example will be the parks. They have their trash pickup from the parks. And the way it was being conducted is we had to go ahead and have this come before us, and it takes a lot of time for, things that have already been approved in the budget, and trying to expedite the meetings a little bit as we've changed our meeting structure a little bit. It felt to be important. So we did ask our county administrator to take a look at the possibilities and came up with the policy number 417.
417, yes.
And one thing I would like to add on that is that there is a dollar amount limitation on that, so it's not really freewheeling signing contracts, but there is a dollar limit established to this. $24,999 annual.
You see every item that comes through
And the
every
items-
week that shows up on our email, so we
the
are,
Items would have to be budgeted or amended thereafter before the contract could be signed, and it has to be approved by legal counsel.
one of the complaints we always hear is everything moves slow and sometimes it gets beyond, so there's just trying to move things along a little better, and sometimes things get lost because, yes,
Or retired from Clinton County, I know the budget process, there was a particular form that you would had to identify all your legal contracts that you wanted to have. Is that something we do in our process, or it's just?
Internal, there's a spreadsheet that was devised for the past ones that, like the reoccurring, like everything IT needs for their different software needs or any other department. It has the company, what it's used for, and the dollar amount on that.
Good, because I would think that'd be a good tool for
Yes.
making that decision then.
Yes.
Sweeney.
When I this desire policy, my biggest point was that we're already reviewing a lot of these contracts through the budgeting process, and then if it's not through that, we're amending it. So the commissioners are already seeing it. So there's not a lot of reason to waste time to getting those things signed because they're already basically approved by us. And then there are, of course, the issues of software user agreements where we were voting on, which didn't even have a cost. So.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, seeing none, we'll proceed to vote. Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Marino,
Yes.
Commissioner Swaney, Commissioner Hope, Commissioner Weber, Commissioner Campbell,
Yes.
Commissioner Jelzinski, Commissioner Engler. 7 ayes, 0 nays. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and Commissioner Swaney.
Item 7, Isabella County Fiscal Year 2026 Budget Calendar. Motion reads, move to approve Isabella County Fiscal Year 2026 Budget Calendar as presented.
Support.
Been moved by Swaney and supported by Jelzinski. Comments? It's kind of similar what we used last year, and we've adjusted it.
It's a very similar timeframe as what you had last year, which added in more meeting times and more discussion opportunities with the board to go over the budget. So I would highly recommend that the board approves this as presented.
Okay, anybody else would like to comment? If not, we will proceed to vote. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Swaney?
Yes.
Commissioner Hope? Commissioner Weber? Commissioner Campbell? Commissioner Jelzinski? Commissioner Marino? Commissioner Engler. 7 ayes, 0 nays. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have no intergovernmental affairs. Administrator Controller, would you like to comment or not?
I think a lot of the comments I did on those answering of the questions, so I have nothing more to add.
Always like to give you the opportunity, so. Okay, we have no unfinished business. Before we go into new business, we did change the agenda item for public comment. As always, this is on anything. We limit to 3 minutes for your comments. And at this time, I will open up to public comment. After this, we will go into closed door session where everybody will have to leave. And then after that, we'll come back and finish the meeting. So typically, we don't have any more business after a closed door session, but we go into closed door sessions for negotiations for contracts. So. Okay.
Like the fact that people thought about it different ways and voted different ways. I appreciate two Democrats voting from a fiscally conservative perspective. Really appreciate that. I want to talk a little bit about the building. There's a lot of people, we heard our prosecuting attorney come up here talking about thinking that they had moved out temporarily. It was only going to be 12 months, maybe a little bit more. I hear that over and over the more times I talk to various people in the county. And I think they still think that they're going to get into this new building soon. And I think I want to just talk about a couple things as to why I think the citizens are frustrated with the options that we've heard. Currently, we're paying roughly $250,000 a year, maybe $275,000 with the increase and now with the prosecuting attorney, $275,000 a year. The remodel is expected to be $750,000 a year. Commissioner Engler and I went back and forth on that. Initially, we thought maybe it was closer to 600, but now I think he thinks it's back more to 750 a year. So basically, by renting, currently, we're saving nearly $500,000 a year. That would be two scanning machines in the jail. That would be lots of other things to spend. So currently, as we sit right now, we're saving a lot of money versus the alternative. I want to raise two other things just as a comparative. We've talked about remodeling 2 floors. I think that was the current semi-proposal, which represents about 28,000 square feet. The price on that was estimated to be 11 million. 11 million, 28,000 square feet. There's a new listing out there, 211 South Crapo Street, which is an administration building currently used for medical purposes. It's a single-story building, all ADA compliant, very nicely set up for multiple different groups. It's 20,000 square feet. Guess what the listing price is on that? 1.36 million. 20,000 square foot, workable, usable, being used today, 1.36 million. And the county is being asked, or the citizens are being asked, go 28,000 square feet, just slightly more, for 11 million. It doesn't even pass any sense of reasonableness. So why is the estimated remodel so expensive? I haven't got to that full bottom yet. I don't know if people have just been buffering at 50 different layers. I don't know if it's hiring these big outside groups like Spicer and Clark that say like, hey, this is county work. Let's milk this sucker for all it's worth. I don't know if it's because of the additional requirements we have, because we may be getting loans and bonds and things like that. But I think it's been said a couple of times, and I want to emphasize, we need to try to move this effort to local contractors. I work with a ton of them, more on the residential. There's no local contractor that I would look at to remodel 2 floors like that would say $11 million to me, not even remotely close. So I'm going to try to find some of them and talk to them and see if we can find some way to remodel that with local contractors in a more financially feasible way. My ask to you, please don't rush to continue to look for ways to borrow that $11 million and pass that debt to my children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, for some of the people in here. Please give us time to try to find something that's reasonable, and please try to work with our constituents or for our county employees. I don't think some of you have toured the buildings. You should be touring those buildings. You should be talking to the people, seeing what kind of situation they're in, finding out what we can do even in the short term to help them out. But try to get them comfortable so that they don't feel like, hey, I'm supposed to be out of here in a month. I'm supposed to be out of here in a month. My position is I think we're going to be multiple years, maybe even several years or 5 years or 7 years before we get into that building. And I think we need to try to get people kind of geared to that to give us some time to try to do something that makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you all deeply. I want to say that again. Thank you. I know that there are very hard situations right now that everyone is facing. And I appreciate that you listened to that which was brought forward. And, you know, the one thing that I heard was, do we want to punish Sheriff Maine? I would think nobody would want to punish Sheriff Maine. I think that probably most everybody in this room would love to see a body scanner. But of course, do we have the means to make that happen right now? In the future, I hope that this discussion does come back up. But going back to, do we punish him? If you ask if you have to punish somebody here, I don't know that you're making decisions appropriately, because we should never be punishing anybody. Instead, we should also be asking, are those county employees right now that have no space, is there something else that we can be doing for them? Because if I were a county employee, in fact, I think I would be asking myself, like, am I being punished right now because I don't have a new facility or we're spread all over the county? So please consider that with your language and when you speak. There are a lot of county employees right now that are working, and it's not a matter of comfort, it's a matter of not having the space and the effective area to work efficiently. So thank you again. I do want to propose, and I don't know the language, and I'm not sure if you're all familiar with the language, but in regards to the body scanner, I know that there's money that we have that comes in every year from the opioid lawsuit. It would seem logical that opioid lawsuit money could be used for a body scanner to detect contraband. So maybe that's something that you could all look into as a possibility. And again, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other comment at this time? Okay, I don't see anybody come forward. Is there anybody online? Okay. Okay, at this time, I will close the public comment. And I will ask everybody to depart the room. Yes.
Move that we move into closed section under Section 8C of the Open Meetings Act to discuss collective bargaining strategy regarding GELC.
Support.
Been moved and supported that we enter into closed session. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Weber, Commissioner Campbell,
Yes.
Commissioner Jazinski, Commissioner Marino, Commissioner Swaney, Commissioner Hope, Commissioner Engler. 7 ayes, 0 nays. Motion passed, Mr. Chairman.
Close the door session as soon as everybody leaves, and then we'll ask you to shut your, yes.
In the future, can we not use acronyms? Like on motion
Okay, I forgot to turn, I was so eager to do this, but anyway, I'll try one more time. I was privileged to go to the Commission Symposium. And it was very pleasant. There was great food, great presentation, stimulating atmosphere. And there was people from all over the state. Some people stayed in hotels, and the upshot was there was good relationship between like the vice president, the provost, and county. They all agreed that we could work together and going forward to the betterment of the community.
Sure.
Jerry?
I know it was brought up in public comment about possibly using some of the opioid settlement funds for new equipment. That's not an allowable use, but I do want to tell you that we now have a committee of, I don't know if it's 8 people we working on the bylaws for this advisory grant committee to make recommendations to spend the interest on the dollars that we are having in terms of principal. And we'll be meeting on Monday for the first time. And we've got somebody from community mental health, tribe, the courts, our courts, health department, really a lot smarter people than I am, but we'll put together a set of bylaws that will get through legal counsel and administration, and eventually come before the board.
I was at the Mount Pleasant Public School meeting, board meeting last night. They're finishing 2 years of redoing all of their policies line by line. Last night they were in the section of basically, I'm going to say civil rights for their students. So what was important last night was they were basically modifying policy on Title IX as it's changing. I let everyone know that the board is focused on maintaining their policies and policies that are strictly in line with the law. You don't, if as some groups are losing protections under Title IX, as we're moving forward, they're still being covered under like Elliott Larson Act for the state. And according to their lawyers, there's no conflict between the two statutes.
Just a couple things, just for your information. I was at Deerfield last night township, and they are actively gonna want to change their zoning they're looking into changing their zoning to the county now. So I know it's a long process, but they just started opening up those discussions because it's expensive to do zoning. So I've hoped to talk to Mr. Newport, but how that process starts, and it won't be a quick process. I'm sure there'll have to be open meetings or something, but they have, in their meeting, they were discussing and going forward with that and trying to figure that out. A lot of interest has been going on with the MRF facility, the material manufacturers. We're having a meeting Thursday, 9 o'clock at Union Township. So that's an advisory committee meeting. And one thing that has nothing to do with the commissioners, but it's tree sales are here for the Isabella Conservation District. So the order forms are out there. So I should have did it. Well, we had a crowd here, but anyways, you can go online, Facebook, isabellaconservation.org for their annual tree sales. So, and that's the best deal you're going to get. So that's all I have. With that, I guess I'll entertain a motion.
So moved that we adjourn.
Support.
Order that we adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. Thank you.